On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks get a win over the Philadelphia 76ers. Luka Doncic goes off. And I'm going to tell you why he's that man. That's all I got to say. He's that man. Talk about it on today's Locked On Mavs. I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks Podcast. And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every single day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can see the beautiful American Airlines court behind me. I'm here at the game. Late night, 12:43 a.m. Central Time, Texas time. This game was absolutely wild, and Luka Doncic made it a show worth watching. That's what he does. He makes it a show worth watching. We'll break this whole game down. We'll talk about why he's incredible. We'll talk about that rim right there. You can see it on YouTube if you're watching this right now. There's still a bunch of guys messing around with this rim right here. If you're looking at it, there's just a semicircle of people standing around like dads at a construction site. And they're just looking at this old rim. They have the rim from the replacement basket taken off. But we'll talk about all that a little bit later. You can see it on YouTube if you just want to watch guys look around at a half-broke rim. The Mavs get the win against the Philadelphia 76ers, 107-98. They hold another team under 100 points. But it was Luka. It was Luka that got this win. The Mavericks do not get anywhere close if Luka does not come out of the second half in the third quarter and just go absolutely berserk. He had 11 points, 5 boards, and 4 assists in the third quarter. He was a plus 17 in the quarter. He played the entire third quarter. He played all 12 minutes. He was a plus 17 in that quarter. That means when Luka was on the floor, the Mavericks were 17 points. The Mavericks gained 17 points in the score margin. That's pretty nuts. We talk about plus minus a lot, but when you put it like that, in 12 minutes, Luka basically erased, the deficit that the Mavericks had and gave them a lead in a huge, massive, massive way. And he came out and it was different. First half, it was sluggish. It didn't really look like there was a whole lot going on with this team. The Mavericks were down. They lost both quarters. They didn't score 25 points in the first quarter. Their offense just seemed like they didn't have it. Luka, in the first half was 15 points, 5 boards, 7 assists. You're like, okay, he had a good half. That's a good half for him. The stats are there. Just the rest of it wasn't. Embiid was doing anything he wanted. He had 18 points, 9 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals. Embiid did in the first half. Embiid was doing anything he wanted. It was all over the place. And the second half, the Mavs came out different. And it started with Luka. He's the head of the snake. He's the leader. He's the one that steps up, and he's the one that makes things happen for the Dallas Mavericks. And he did in this one. And it was on a national stage. ESPN was here. They had all their people here. They had Richard Jefferson, who I was hoping he would dunk just one more time. Remember when old Richard Jefferson dunked in a Mavs game? It was incredible. But they had the ESPN crew here. It was a national TV game. Pushed back. This was supposed to be an earlier game, and then they pushed it back so they could flex it to put on national TV, to put on ESPN. And the Mavericks ended up making it an incredibly good show. An incredibly good show to watch. And it was Luka in that third quarter that came out. He was scoring, he was dishing, and he was just absolutely taking advantage in the pick and roll. It didn't matter if Joel Embiid was there. Embiid had some really good stops in this game. He had some really good defensive plays in this game. But in the third quarter, it didn't matter. It didn't matter what anybody did in that quarter. Brunson helped in that third quarter. He had 11 points. And then Reggie Bullock also he had 10 points, 5 of them on the free throw line. One of those free throws I believe was a technical foul that we'll talk about in just a little bit. But this was an absolutely massive game for the Mavericks. They needed this game after losing to the Magic and then the Thunder back-to-back games. They needed a game like this. They needed a game like this to say, hey, we can still play like this. We can still come out and defend in a way that we need to. We can still come out and score on teams when we need to. I think the Sixers team and this Mavs team have a lot of similarities. There's just a lot of things that are similar between both of these clubs. They have, stars that everything revolves around. They have the polarizing, let's put it that way, polarizing second star that is, in and out of the lineup. Ben Simmons obviously way more out of the lineup than Porzingis is. They have this cast of characters that are just they seem to be overpriced and then they overvalued and then undervalued, like Tobias Harris, Danny Green, Dwight Powell, Tim Hardaway Jr., Jalen Brunson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Maxi Kleber. Like, all these guys seem to have, they're either way overvalued or way undervalued. And these teams both also, they rise and fall with the tide, it seems like. Because the Sixers team everything was going well for them at the start. They were hitting. They were defending well. Joel Embiid was getting a ton of foul calls. There was a million foul calls in this game. A ton of foul calls in this game. I think they finished with, just an incredible amount of it. They had 27 fouls in the first half of this game. I look like I'm telling you guys a ghost story if you're watching this on YouTube because of my iPad brightness. They had 24 fouls called in the first half. 27 fouls, an incredible amount of fouls. There was just no pace to the game really at all. Finished the game with 40 total fouls called. That's insane. The average is 16. The average amount of fouls called in the game is 16, and there was 40 fouls called in this game. There was really no rhythm, no pace whatsoever. The first half was just brutal for the Mavs, and then Luka Doncic comes out in that third quarter. The Mavs come out, and they look different. I wrote this down. Night and day different. Night and day different. Luka Doncic dunked. It was an incredible dunk early in the third quarter, and we did not know we were getting a second one. Only Luka's second dunk of the year came at the beginning of that third quarter. The Mavs started to go on a run. They came out swinging, really. And then the Sixers take a timeout after the Mavs swing. They cut the lead to 5. Joel Embiid gets blocked by Dwight Powell, which is somehow not a foul. It looked like a changing of the tide for the referees as well. Dwight blocks Embiid. The Mavericks force a shot clock violation for the Sixers. Dwight gets fouled again. He scores 2 free throws. And then all of a sudden, it just looked like the defense was night and day difference. This Mavericks team is learning how to be a really good defensive team because they haven't been. This team has been a below average defensive team the last 3 years. The last 2 years, I guess. Let's just say the Luka era. They've been a below average defensive team. And they've prided themselves on defense this year. They've been top 5 for a lot of the year. And they have to learn how to be a good defense like that, how to consistently be a good defense. And we're starting to learn how they do that. They went to a zone. Jason Kidd credited the zone after the game and said, the zone was really working for us. The zone was what really helped us in this game, and gave credit to that as well as in a big way. But it was Luka that made things work. It was Luka that kicked out to open shooters. It was Luka that basically just drew the entire focus of the Sixers team was just on Luka, and they could not stop him. It didn't matter what they did. It didn't matter who they put on him. Danny Green and Andre Drummond, when they went to the bench lineups, were just absolute toast next to when Luka Doncic was in that pick and roll. Dwight Powell benefited a lot from Luka in that pick and roll. He finished with 14 points. He was 6 of 6. He hit all of his dunks that you want in the layups and the putbacks. And I thought Dwight Powell had a really good game in this one. We can talk about him a little bit later. But yeah, Luka Doncic put on a show for this crowd. He only hit 1 3. That was the thing also that between Joel Embiid and Luka Doncic. If you were watching this game, as a Mavs fan, you look at Joel Embiid at the end of this game, and the last couple of plays were just Embiid chucks up a 3. Embiid chucks up a 3. Brunson gets a rebound. Embiid chucks up a 3. It was like 3 plays in a row. Embiid just said, let me just put this in my hands. Let me just end it. And it felt like what we've seen from Luka recently. But Luka was able to take advantage late in the game, and he came up big in multiple spots. I talked about that third quarter already, but the fourth quarter, the Mavericks had an 85-78 lead going into the fourth quarter. And then the Sixers came out and went on a 6-0 run to start the fourth quarter, and they cut the Mavericks lead to 1. And it just felt like the momentum completely shifted out of the room. And it felt like the Sixers were getting back into the game. This was with their bench. Embiid wasn't even back yet, but it felt like the Sixers completely took the momentum away from the Mavericks. Jason Kidd called a timeout, a good one. Luka came back into the game. Philly continued their run. They went on an 11-0 run. Dallas calls another timeout with about 6 minutes left, and Embiid comes back in then. And then it was just the Mavericks keeping and just milking all they could out of a 5-point lead until then the last 3 minutes. Brunson gets a really good out of timeout play where he gets a catch, and he just basically runs it like a running back and one against Curry. Embiid hits a 3. Luka chucks up a 3. Brunson gets the offensive rebound. Luka with the and one against Maxi, and that was basically the end of the game and how it went. So it was an incredible run for Luka, and I saved it for right now. Luka Doncic got a dunk against Andre Drummond. Just completely yammed it on his face with 2 minutes and 35 seconds left in the third quarter. And it was probably the loudest I've ever heard the American Airlines Center. It was a Friday night. It was late. There was the weird delay with the rim that we'll talk about here in a minute. But Luka jammed it home, and all of a sudden the crowd just started standing on their feet. Some people didn't stop standing. Some people were probably really annoyed that there was people standing in front of him for a long time there. But Luka, that's how he capped off that third quarter. It was electric. And it showed Luka with that dunk, the way that he was able to do it, the athleticism he was able to showcase with that. He's back in better shape. That's huge. That's massive for Luka. We've been talking about all year. Does Luka look a little slow? Does Luka look a little bit like he's bigger than we're used to? And now he's back in shape. And he's dunking like that. Multiple dunks in the game. He only had one dunk the entire season, and he had two dunks, and the second one late in the third quarter was just an athletic feat. When's the last time we talked about Luka having an athletic feat? Tim McMahon had the report that he's back down to his playing weight when he was a rookie. He doesn't look exactly like he did as a rookie. Isaac texted me a picture of Luka signing his contract when he was a rookie. And, man, go look at that picture because Luka just looks completely different around the neck and the face and all that. But it was showing that Luka in shape, being able to get up for plays like that, being able to dunk like that, being able to finish in the fourth quarter was absolutely massive. Coming up, let's get into the rest of this game. How did the Mavericks play outside of that? Who else stepped up? Because it wasn't just Luka. Other guys in this game stepped up. And, of course, you can see the double rims still behind me on YouTube if you're watching. We'll talk about all that and everything that happened with the crazy replacement rims and all that on today's Locked On Mavs. All right, thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every single day. We are continuing our trade deadline dash. We'll continue to do a podcast. Not sure we're going to do one tomorrow, though. There hasn't been a ton of rumors, but we got a post-game pod for you every single day, and you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and get that, and also on the podcast feed as well. Other guys stepped up in this game. It wasn't just Luka alone. Jalen Brunson had some moments. He played 38 minutes. He had 19 points, 5 boards, 4 assists. He was huge. He stepped up as a star in that third quarter when Luka when the Mavs needed to go on that run. He stepped up in a way that the Mavericks absolutely needed him. The way the last couple of games, though, I've been hard on him, saying you got to step up. If you want to be a $20 million player, you have to step up in these moments, and he did. He was taking advantage of Maxi all over the place in the pick and roll, and those guys traded buckets. Him and Maxi, they play a very similar game in the fact that they can hit the ball from all angles off the rim. They were able to finish anywhere that they want. They're able to just finish these like really long out extended layups with their arm, and they can finish like that. And they just were trading buckets a lot. But I think Jalen Brunson got the better of Maxi in this game. Maxi finished this game with 18 points of his own, but I thought that Brunson's 19, even though it was only one more point, I thought it mattered a little bit more for the Mavericks in the win. Brunson was huge. Brunson was absolutely massive. Reggie Bullock. I don't have the drop, but I'll just go ahead and do it audibly. I have to apologize. He thought like he should play more. Yeah. He started in the starting lineup since Maxi was out. Maxi Kleber was out. Obviously, Kristaps Porzingis still out. Tim Hardaway Jr. still out. But Reggie Bullock stepped in, hit 4 threes, and all of them were big. Every single one of them. Every single one of those threes were big, and they needed them. He finished with 20 points. He had 6. He hit 6 free throws as well throughout the entire game, and that was absolutely massive for the Mavericks. He had 20 points. The Mavericks have been looking for, okay, who's going to give us 20? Who's another player that can fill it up every fourth game or so? The Tim Hardaway Jr. To fill his spot, and Reggie Bullock has done that every couple games here. If they can keep getting that, then that's going to be massive for this team. Bullock also had some incredible defensive plays. He was really trying hard on defense. That's what he prides himself on. And he looked so gassed at the end of the game. I was watching the huddle, and Reggie Bullock was just like wincing and panting and just going in the huddle at the end of the game saying, man, he basically just gave him his all. And that's what the Mavs need out of him. Him and Dorian on defense, they have to be after it. They have to be rotating the way that a really good defensive team does. They have to be rotating back to shooters. They have to be flying around the court. They have to be following, following the pass almost with their defense, and they were. Bullock was big. Dorian Finney-Smith hit 3 threes. He had 3 steals, and those were all pretty big too. 13 points for him. Those guys were 7 of 19 from 3. That doesn't sound very good. 7 of 19. That's not, it's not 50%, but that's a good percentage. If those guys are hitting threes and no one else hit threes, Luka was 1 of 6, Brunson was 1 of 4, Frank Ntilikina was 1 of 3, Josh Green missed 1, Marquise Chris missed 1. That was all the threes for the Mavs. They only took 34, but they were 10 of 34. 7 of them came from Finney-Smith and Bullock, and they absolutely need those. They absolutely need those, and they got them in this game tonight. But it was a defense that really stepped up, and I got to give Dwight Powell some credit. I have to give Dwight Powell some credit because I thought he did a decent job. He finished with 5 fouls. I don't know if he earned all 5 of those fouls, but he was doing well, against Joel Embiid. They did throw a lot of help and a lot of traps on Joel Embiid. They had to. You just can't guard Dwight Powell with Joel Embiid one-on-one. You're just not gonna. That's not gonna go well for you if you're the team defending. But yeah, we got a Boban sighting. That was the crowd got absolutely up on their feet and they were excited for that. Josh Green, I thought, played some decent minutes, but he had 7 boards and didn't score. He missed a 3. He didn't really attempt any other field goals. But let's get into this. Let's get into this weird thing that happened, this weird delay of game, this super long 30-40 minute delay of game that happened. So the first quarter, they play about 5 minutes. Luka hits a 3, and then all of a sudden he sees something, and he's just pointing and gesturing and looking at all the refs, and he's going back down on defense, to his credit, but he's just going all over the place trying to get someone's attention and tell somebody, hey, the rim, and he kept doing this thing with his hand, sort of like showing the level of the rim and saying it's off kilter, like it's tilted, the rim is tilted, and he was just going insane, going nuts about this. And so they went over and checked, and everybody basically gathered around, half court, and they were looking, and then Marquise Chris went up, and he jumped up and tried to fix it. He grabbed onto the rim and kind of shook it and tried to get it back to where it was level. And then the refs were saying, Boban, go out there, and Boban got out there and got on his toes and just from the ground and just tried to adjust it. And then obviously that wasn't working, and we were just kind of sitting around for a while saying, man, is there something wrong with this rim? A guy came out with a ladder and a level. There's pictures all over the place. I'm sure you saw some of the highlights. I guess it's a highlight. Maybe it's not a highlight. But he came out and he tried to fix the rim, and so he was leveling the rim off, and they had to tape measure the floor to make sure it was right. And then they felt like it was okay. And then Luka came back to half court, looked at it, said, no, it's not good. It's not good. He came back to the bench, put on his warm-up, and then they brought out they eventually, after time waiting, they brought out the spare rim, and that's the one you can see behind me right now. If you're looking on YouTube, you can see this spare rim is the one that is in the spot of where the rim is in right now. Then you have the other guys working on the original rim, and they're trying to put it back. But it takes a long time to hook up that rim, because you think about all the things going on with it. There's cameras on the rim. There's the shot clock. There's the shot clock, and then there's the actual game clock on the rim. There's the the lights with the shot clock that go on there. There's all kinds of things you got to hook up, and it has to be perfectly synced with everything, so you cannot mess up plugging in this rim. I don't think there's just one plug you plug in. So it took them a while to do this, and everyone's just sitting waiting because no one wanted to leave their seats in the American Airlines Center, because what if they just start the game back? Like, what if all of a sudden it starts? We don't know when it was going to start, and if you're out in the line getting concessions, you may miss out. And so everybody's just sitting around waiting around and trying to figure out what's going on and figure out, okay, when are we actually gonna start this game again? Game started. It was already a late start. It started at 9 p.m. Texas, Dallas, Texas time. And by 10:30, the first quarter had ended. It was an hour and a half, basically an hour and a half quarter, because of that huge stop in the middle to try and fix the rim. They obviously brought out the spare rim. They put it up, and then the teams warmed up again. They got 5 minutes to warm up, so they're back in layup lines. They're shooting, and it just feels like the start of a game, but the score was already up. They already both had double digits. It was at that point in the game, it was already 14. It was already 15-6, 15-17. The Sixers were already up. And but after the game, Reggie Bullock talked about that stoppage, and he said we got time to talk about how to defend Embiid and to talk about how to to best attack this. And we didn't see it the rest of that first half, but maybe some of that talking that they got to do helped in that second half when they really were able to take advantage of it. Now, so they replaced the rim, and then the Mavs missed their next 10 shots at that rim. So I don't know if Luka regrets telling everybody that the rim was crooked because the Mavs came out, but it ended up working out because in the second half, the Mavs got to shoot on a different rim because they switched sides, and then it ended up working out for the Mavericks when they got the win on the original rim and all that. So that's what happened in Dallas. That's what we saw from our seats. Everyone was sitting waiting, and it sort of happened because Luka hit a three and saw that the rim was tilted. So wild, weird game. Tim Cato and I were talking about what are the other big stoppages and things that we remember. Iztok Franco was here, and he from Slovenia, and he mentioned that the Manu Ginobili bat game where he caught the bat in midair, that was one. Tim Cato mentioned that during Summer League one year there was an earthquake. I remember that game. There was a game that I remember that was I think it was in Minnesota where there was water on the court. That was a long stoppage in Minnesota. But this has got to be one of the weirdest, longest stoppages of play where the rim is tilted. It's on national TV and everybody's sitting around waiting, and then everybody comes back. But yeah, so this game was wild. Luka Doncic took over. He was absolutely huge. The weird stoppage for the rim, the incredible amount of fouls. Seemed like at times there was no rhythm to the game. 40 fouls total were called in this game. That's an incredible amount of fouls. But the Mavericks were able to take it home. They were able to get this win. They got another one coming up against the Hawks on Sunday. That's another big game for the Mavs. Every game right now, it feels like is big for the Mavs because if you look at the standings, the Mavs don't have a lot of wiggle room. They don't have a lot of room to mess around and not get wins, and that's why those losses against the Magic and the Thunder matter a lot for the Mavericks and why they were so tough. The Mavericks right now, if we take a look at the Western Conference standings, they're not as tight as the Eastern Conference standings. Those Eastern Conference standings are the top of them are all within one game. So the Sixers really messed up losing this game that they kind of had at several points they could have had back. But the Mavs right now are fighting for their lives. They want to stay out of the play-in, and now we go to the trade deadline. Trade deadline's coming up this week, and we'll see if the Mavs make a move. Nico Harrison was on the broadcast, so I'll go back and listen to that and see if there's anything we can take from that. I did hear on there that he was talking about we just keep reassessing this team. Hopefully they don't. I don't know if they do it game to game like we do, but this team does need to make some kind of move. We'll see if they do. There you go. That's this game. The Mavericks get a win, a good one, and an incredible electric atmosphere in the American Airlines Center. You can see the ladder is back. If you're watching on YouTube, they're trying to fix the rim again still. I don't know how long they're going to keep trying to fix it, but it was longer than this podcast that they were trying to fix it after the game. But, guys, thanks so much for listening to the show. Subscribe. Go ahead and listen to the other shows on the network. Locked On NBA has great stuff every single day. We have a show about every single team. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom.